Guys, I have a confession to make. I spend way too much time staring at screens. Whether it's a computer, a phone, or a TV, I'm always looking at something, even before I go to sleep. It turns out the blue light emitted from these devices was causing digital eye strain and was affecting my sleep. You may be in the same position. Blue light damages our eyes and can lead to blurred vision, headaches, and dry, watery eyes. For some, exposure to blue light can even cause heightened anxiety, depression, and low energy. Blue Blocks was created to change this with high-quality lenses made in a specialized optics laboratory in Australia. Their 40 frames come in prescription, non-prescription, and readers, so you'll find exactly what you need. Go to blueblocks.com/Chael. That's BlueBlocks, BlueBlocks.com/Chael. Use the promo code Chael at checkout. That's going to get you 20% off and free shipping worldwide, or just click the link below. Israel Adesanya was weighing in on Jon Jones, right? Anywhere Izzy goes, probably to the point of annoyance, but he gets asked the question about Jon and will that fight ever happen? And don't forget, guys, there was a lot of talk around that fight. I mean, I still maintain to this day the whole reason that Izzy went up and took on Blachowicz wasn't about the champ status and had nothing to do with Blachowicz. It was to get the belt, welcome Jon Jones back, and do this super fight, right? I'm sure you guys agree with me. Even if that's never been admitted to, that would make sense. It makes sense that that was the plan. And when Izzy moved up to 205 pounds, even when he had the fight with Blachowicz, he never talked about him. All he did was talk about Jon. So I think we know where this was going to go, because Izzy gets beat, he's going to return to 85. Jon's still removed from the sport in its entirety. He's not licensed anywhere, and he hasn't stated what he's going to do, or at least when he's going to do it. So Izzy weighed in on Jon, and Izzy said, yes, I absolutely think that fight is going to happen. I don't know how. I don't know how we're going to do it. I'm an 85-pounder. He's a heavyweight. Something's going to have to happen, but I do think we're going to fight. Izzy then said, let's see if Jon can go up and handle this new division. I think he can, but I don't know if he believes it. Okay. Stay there, because that's really well said. That is really well said by Izzy, at least for me. That's exactly how I feel about Jon. When I see Jon, I see a rare talent. As a guy, I'll insert myself, that fought at middleweight, at light heavyweight, and then at heavyweight. I will be the first to tell you, the bigger you get, the worse the fighters are. The perception of the heavyweight champion being the best fighter in the world is a very false perception. The bigger you go, they look good. You sell a bunch of tickets, but the skills go down. They just go down the higher you go. Less versatile, less dynamic. I'm sure a lot of those things just make sense. Heavyweight wrestling is similar. Heavyweight jiu-jitsu is similar. It's a sport in and of itself. You have to learn how to deal with heavyweights. Is not the same as dealing with these other bodies that are quicker, that are going to use athleticism. I bring that to you because that's all I have to believe Jon could do great up there. All I have is my own experiences with Jon, my own experiences with the top heavyweights. Who felt better? Who was harder to deal with? How much did size matter? I tip all of that towards Jon. And then I have a little bit better empirical evidence. Heavyweights who trained with Jon. Brendan Schaub comes to mind. Travis Brown comes to mind. Andrei Arlovsky comes to mind. But these were all heavyweights in the same room. Names that you guys would all know. Names that I respect. All said how great Jon was. I mean, they just said that, look, he's a lot to deal with. He's long. He knows how to use this reach. We have no ability to wrestle with him just because he can keep distance and do things at a speed. So now you're left to strike with a guy who's got 6-inch reach on you and is dynamic. I mean, it was these kind of compliments I'm coupling together. But those are three meaningful heavyweights. And what was Schaub at one point? Schaub was ranked number 6 at one point. Travis Brown was ranked number 3. And Arlovsky's a former champion. I mean, those are three names that matter, right? I want to say Overeem might have jumped in with Jon a few times too. Big compliments from respectable guys. And don't forget, at the time that they worked out with Jon and that these compliments were being spread around, Jon was a 205-pounder. Now, he weighs about 225. Little out of shape, even 228. Usually no more than that. But if you think about that 225 and 228 prior to pulling down to 205 pounds, he looked pretty good. I mean, he looked pretty lean. He didn't look like a guy out of shape. You could tell, yeah, okay, he's maybe not in his training camps, but he looked pretty good. And if I was to compare him against other light heavyweights, maybe I would come to the conclusion he needs to get a little bit more fit. But if I was to compare him, I'm just talking about a picture worth 1,000 words, right? If I looked at a picture of Jon at 225, 228 pounds, and I looked at a meaningful top 5 heavyweight, I'm going to deduce that Jon's in better shape. I bring you these as pieces of evidence to support Izzy's claim. Izzy's claim is, I, Izzy, think Jon will do great at heavyweight. I don't know if Jon thinks that, and I'm seeing the same thing. And that's okay. Like, if you think I'm being my typical jerk of a self towards Jon Jones, I'm not. There's a compliment there. It's a big compliment saying, I think he could have done it. I think that Jon versus Stipe is a very compelling match. That's one that could have happened. Not now, not for the title now. But that could have happened, and Jon passed. Jon versus Francis, very different match, based on what we now know about Francis. Right? Francis showed us a lot in that second meeting with Stipe. He did show us an ability to scramble, an ability to understand range, an ability to still have the speed and the power of a smaller guy. You now insert Ciryl, who at least on paper is the better striker, and also, if you're turned to paper, has never been taken down. You put the fact that he's never been taken down, talking about Ciryl. You juxtapose that with the fact that Jon Jones has never fought a man and Jon hasn't gotten at least one takedown. All of a sudden, you have something interesting to discuss. It just seems as though we're now changing the conversation, which means you're changing the goals, which means whatever it was that gave Jon an apprehensiveness, whatever reservations he had about very specific guys when Derek Lewis was a top contender, right? I mean, we now have new guys who have proven that they're much better than the guys who were in charge at the time Jon made the move. Curtis Blade's still a top guy. He's got his hands full. He's got Rosenstrike, some great matches out there. It's just, if you're Jon and you're thinking, okay, what am I going to do next and who am I going to do it against? That's where you begin to outthink yourself. We do not know. We do not know. Will the opportunity come against Stipe? Will the opportunity come against Francis? You've now got this new guy named Ciryl. All things that were never taken into consideration and never planned for initially when the experiment of taking X amount of time off, surrounding yourself with juice freaks, trying to stay clean, and put on 20 pounds of clean muscle. That was all done with a specific athlete in mind, but those athletes are largely gone and has largely changed the dynamic. So what do? You come back to the same spot that Izzy laid out for us, which is, I think he would do really well. I have reason to believe that. But I'm also basing my reason on a guy who I last saw win a decision that he shouldn't have won 2 years ago. And things change so darn quickly for athletes. I mean, they say that so doggone quickly. You can see what happened with Conor McGregor. You can see how much Conor has gone down from what he was, right? And what do we know about life? Anything that goes up must come down. So Conor's on top of the world, champ, going into a whole nother sport of boxing, maybe going to stay there and take on Pacquiao. He had so many things go. Where can you go? You can only go one way, which is down, but Conor stayed pretty active. Conor was in the gym. Conor never got fat or out of shape. He kept himself busy. Jon is doing absolutely nothing. He's running on big treadmills with juice freaks. And it just leads you to believe, okay, there's some laws of life. There's some laws that nobody can get around, such as we don't get better with time. We don't get better at something by not doing it. That doesn't mean that any of those rules have caught Jon. They will catch him eventually, but there's a lot of rules out there that don't apply to him. He's special. Jon is special. It's like he had a special wand waved over him. But he's still a human being, and at some point, everything I'm saying will be true, for sure. But how long do you have? And that's where it starts to get very questionable. That's where some of the statements of when Jon comes back, he can fight for the championship start over time to get called into question. Why? I understood why it was true when it was first said, because he was a light heavyweight who only lost one match in his career. I understand that. Why is it still being said now? And if we go another year, which is what it looks like, at least for title opportunities for Jon, should it be said then? And it's just one of those things that you do have to reconsider. Just because something was true at one point in time does not mean it's going to be true forever. If I tell you I'll give you $5,000 for your truck, you can't really call me 3 years from now and say, man, I have that $5,000 you offered me, right? And the truck is now going to be worth a lot less. Not to mention there's going to be new cars on the market, and I've got the right as a buyer to take my $5,000 and go put it down on something else that looks a little bit shinier and newer. In all fairness, when I made the statement to you, I meant it at the time. The statement is now expired. The statement has got to have an expiration for Jon, too, because you are greatly stopping any kind of motivation with the boys in the back. If you make the statement that Jon gets to come up for a title shot, that just shows that you respect him and you respect what he does. That's good, solid reasoning right there. For that day, over a period of time, if Jon gets to be the number one contender with an ace up his sleeve he can throw on the table at any point, if I'm a fellow heavyweight, what am I doing this for? I'm doing this to get my own opportunity, but my opportunity gets superseded by his opportunity because we made the statement first. I mean, you see where things start to get weird? It starts to get very, very weird. And it all kind of goes back to Jon's circle, right? You want me to show you your future? Show me your friends now. You show me who your friends are. I will show you what your future is. And that circle just keeps getting weirder. Right now he's got these new weightlifting buddies, which is just a weird thing to start with. Of all exercises, I believe lifting weights are my favorite. So maybe I fall into this very category that I'm teasing. But if you have a group of people who dedicate themselves to picking up heavy things and setting it back down, it's weird. One of those things. Strange things are going to happen. That appears to be the new circle. All of which are hopped up on the hoopies, which don't make for the world's best cameo shots when you're a multiple-time pet offender. Oh, and by the way, you're trying to put on 20 pounds of muscle. Like, at some point, right, even a broken clock is right twice a day. At some point, the visual has to mean something, and at some point, an offer has to expire. The offer that Jon can slide up to heavyweight and get a number one contendership match, that can't just be floating in the air. He clearly didn't want to fight Francis. So if Francis remains champion, just stop talking to Jon. But if Francis loses the belt, should Jon get that same opportunity? Now that it's easier, now that it's lesser, now that he didn't have to do the heavy lifting and the packing. I'm asking the question. That actually isn't for me to answer. Maybe it's still yes. I do ultimately agree with Adesanya, though. I think Jon can do it too. I think those guys can beat Jon. I think Surreal, I think Francis, I think Stipe, I think they can all beat Jon. But I think Jon can beat them too. One of those nights, going to be close. And Jon is a great competitor. I think he's selling himself short on this whole size business. And if I'm wrong, and he's not selling himself short, he truly does believe, then we have to accept the only other conclusion, which is this is his way out. And Jon has retired.